So a few months ago, I got a bacterial infection from consuming raw heart, and I'll tell you how to prevent that in just a few moments. I've been animal-based for about 4 years now, and also been consuming raw organs for about 4 years and never had an issue. And that is because I source from my most trusted farms, which I will share with you in this video. And so what had happened was I ate raw heart from a non-trusted source, and that is why I ended up with a bacterial infection. So in this episode, I'm gonna show you 3 different ways of how you can eat heart. One will be raw the right way, and then the other 2 is a different method of searing some heart as well as making a stew. Check it out. So you're gonna need beef heart, of course, and I have about 1.5 pounds here right now because I'm gonna show you 3 different ways of how you could cook beef heart. So maybe some of you are new to the animal-based diet and are new to organs even. Heart is a great one to start with because it doesn't have a super weird taste or anything like that. It actually just tastes like a really lean meat. And so this is why heart can be a little bit tricky to prepare or cook, because sometimes it could be too rubbery if you cook it too much. And I just want to show you kind of some ways to consume this super nutrient dense organ. So here we go. We have heart, and then some of the things that I have as well is salt, because you can obviously salt your heart, and whether you're eating it raw, which I'll tell you how to do that, or you can salt it and put it in a skillet or put it on the grill as well too. And then so that's the second way, is just to really lightly sear. And then the third way is going to be a slow cook. So, which I'm very excited about because that's actually a little bit of a newer cooking method to me, and I absolutely loved it. So let's get to it. We have heart. So let's go down the line. First things first. How do you eat it raw? Okay, well, first and foremost, like I mentioned, you source it from a quality farm. So what is a quality farm? I have listed my favorites down below, but this one in particular is from Shirttail Creek Farm. So this is a beautiful piece of heart. And so what I do by just eating it raw is literally salt it. And why do I like to consume it raw? Is because it does have most all of its nutrients intact when you eat it raw. Do I eat it raw all the time? No, just when I freshly open a package, I have some of this, and then I cook some later, which I'm going to show you those other 2 ways that I cook it. But here's raw. When you eat organs raw, sometimes I feel like it's a very subtle flavor. So whether it's heart or liver, I like those raw. And then again, like I said, I also like other cooking methods too, but that's how you eat it raw. Or you could even drizzle a little bit of honey on there. I love this Manuka honey. So this is a great way as well to add a little bit of flavor to raw. Kind of almost like a little sashimi. Maybe you can even make a little cutting board full of raw pieces of heart and whatever. You can even add a pinch of salt on that too. That's super yummy as well. Oh, honey. What's not to love? Or maybe even squirt some lemon on there or lime. Okay, that's raw. But let's say you guys are nervous about raw and you don't want to cook it raw. It's totally fine. Anytime you cook anything, you will degrade the nutrients a little bit, but there's plenty of nutrients and minerals to be found even if you lightly sear it or even slow cook it with water-soluble vitamins that you will still consume. So, not to fear. Okay, here we go. So now the next one is going to be the searing method. So just take a couple of pieces, as much as you want to sear. And with heart, it's a muscle, so it's different than if you were to consume liver or thymus or any organs like that. You don't want to consume that much, right? I would look up how much to consume going down all the other organ paths. But this one in particular, you can eat it like you would a steak. So if you wanted 4 ounces or 6 ounces, you know, I've even eaten it for a full meal at a time, which is half a pound. So that's 8 ounces, right? So cook however much you want. You can't really go wrong with this organ. And like I said, it's tasty too, and it's fun, really cool to slice up and put on a cutting board and serve as appetizers. Okay, so I get it to about room temperature anytime I really like cook meat or anything like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and salt these slices because this is what we're gonna sear. Now, if you've ever cooked a tuna steak before, or maybe have had a tuna steak at a restaurant, you'll know that most of the time the tuna steak is seared, lightly seared, literally like a minute on each side. And it's really pink in the middle because that is just how it's, you know, either best flavored or tastes the best. So that is what I like to do with heart, because if you overcook it, then it can get really chewy. So let's go ahead to the back. I'm gonna throw it on the skillet. I'm gonna show you how to sear it. All right, so I brought my pieces of heart back here. And so what I will do is sear them on the stovetop on a skillet. I really prefer grilling them outside. However, my neighbors are having a party, and so it's a little loud out there. So we're gonna do it on the stovetop for now. So I like to get my pan nice and warm and add a little bit of your animal fat. I'm using First Light's grass-fed Wagyu tallow. I love this tallow. I'm gonna put some of that in the pan so that we can get a nice sear going. Okay, let's put that in the pan. Hear that sizzle? So again, this just requires maybe about a minute on each side. So I'll just kind of look at the clock here and also gauge too, once you sort of start seeing it cook a little bit on the outside and it starts to expand and take up, and that and the cooked part of it starts to expand a little bit down there, you can see, then you'll flip it whenever you're comfortable with it. All right, gonna flip that now, get a nice sear on the other side. Flip that here, and go ahead, let's check out this. You've seared your heart. Now what do? Well, you could do something similar to how you would do it with raw heart. So you could sprinkle a little bit of salt on there, eat it like so. You can add some honey on there. Again, you can season it with a little bit of lemon juice. You can also put some butter on there. Or I have plenty of other recipes on my YouTube channel, such as like bone marrows and other sort of dipping sauces that you can use for this in combination with it. So this is just a great start. So let me cut into it and show you what it looks like here. Okay, let's look at this here. So as you can see, similar to the ahi tuna, right? You have it sort of cooked on both sides and a little bit more rare in the center. That is the perfect temperature to cook it at, where it won't be too chewy and you'll just definitely get a nice flavor. And like I said before, heart tastes just like a steak, almost a really lean steak. And then the third way that you can cook heart is by doing it in a slow cooking method, which I've recently come to love, because like I said, heart can be super tough if you just overcook it, but when it's cooked low and slow, it actually then becomes really tender. So essentially, just take however much heart you want. I tend to do about a pound or even half pound. And then just kind of cut it up here into little small bites. Don't fear this part either. So this is epicardial fat. And don't fear that. This is actually one of the most nutritious sources of fat you can find. Okay, so we have diced up our heart, and I will put this on the plate so I can take it back to do my quick sear before placing it in a pot and pouring some broth over it. So I also wanted to give you a quick tip too. This is great source of protein, obviously, but lean protein. And I know many of you out there who pop in my DMs sometimes on Instagram ask about protein and how to consume 1 gram of protein per pound of goal body weight. And it's like some tell me it's hard for them. And this is a great way because this is such a lean cut of protein that it's less volume that you're actually eating to achieve the amount of protein that you need for your body. So this is a really great way, and like I said, you can't really overdo it on heart because it's a muscle, so you can go anywhere from, 2 ounces if you like is a great portion size, up to 8 ounces or even 16 ounces for the day. So really lean protein and awesome for muscle repair and growth. I will get a little bit of a sear going, and the reason why I like the sears so much is that it just gives you a little bit of that flavor from the animal fat that's in here, as well as the flavor of the meat. So I'm gonna toss that in there. Get a little bit of flavor going now. Remember, don't overcook it. So this is literally about a minute. Good, so now it's starting to turn color a little bit, so I don't want to keep it on too long. All right, so once it starts to turn color a little bit, I will put it on low, and then I'm going to grab my broth here. Now, this is tongue broth, actually, and for those of you that have been watching my YouTube cooking videos and tutorials, there is a tongue taco recipe that you can check out. But also, it's just, again, the gift that keeps giving, to truly eat nose to tail and use whole animal, just a very limited amount of waste by eating this way. So I love this, and it's 2 different, and this is obviously an organ tongue, so I love to just cook it with this. It's not always that I have tongue broth on hand, so you can use your bone broth or, even chicken broth or whatever you want to use. So what you do is you fill it up till about almost covering the meat, as you can see here. So there's a little bit that's popped up off here, and then we'll get that to a little bit of a simmer. And as it starts to simmer, then we'll put it on the slow cooker. All right, so then I'll remove it from the stove. And if you don't have a slow cooker, you absolutely can keep it on the stove and just keep it on low and cover it, or cover it. And if you have a hot plate or a slow cooker, you can sort of place it on there. And essentially you want this to be cooking overnight for like 24 hours to really get that tender texture, as well as the flavor. Okay, so over the course of 24 hours, and of course you can leave it in more, you can come take a look of what it should look like over here. So you see how that liquid has reduced down to, almost like a jus sort of sauce. So it's thicker, but it's really left the beef heart super tender and moist. So now you can just kind of put it in a little bowl and consume and enjoy. Yeah, it's super tasty as is. Of course, you can do any of the things that we did with the other versions of the raw heart or the seared heart. Is you can take some salt, sprinkle it in there, salt, squeeze some lemon, squeeze some lime, or you can even just drizzle a little bit of honey in there. Amazing. You can also plop in, if you'd like, some zucchini, like if you're animal based, right? Zucchini or squashes make it really good. And so you can add some different flavors in there too to your soup. Super amazing. And geez, it looks incredibly nourishing too. Okay, that's it. I've showed you 3 different ways to cook heart, so I hope you introduce this super nourishing organ into your diet. Eating nose to tail, whole animal is super tasty, and also it offers you a ton of nourishment. So come back, comment, and tell me which way that you like best, whether it be raw or seared or cooked in this heart stew. I would love to hear from you. And of course, guess what? It is dog friendly too, to my little favorite carnivore over here, Miss Choxy. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell if you are loving these recipes. And again, come back and comment. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for joining.